Hence, the world economy is recovering from the depths of the COVID crisis. But that crisis will not depart for good until the pandemic is under control. Since the virus no frontier, it cannot be under control anywhere unless it is under control everywhere. Hence, I think that international cooperation is very crucial in this regard. One and simplest but powerful form of international cooperation is academic brainstorming, like we all have done today. The output from the conference would be a great input to ensure a global recovery with resilience. These remain challenging in various areas, ranging from health, education, innovation, supply chain management, environment, politics, and international cooperation. Experience for the past 3 decades shows us potential of economic globalization can bring benefit to human beings, so that it must be continued. Nonetheless, the COVID-19 act like the serious wake-up call for better managing economic globalization. In this regard, empirical research is needed as input for policy making at the national, regional, and global level. I'm confident that outcome from this conference would be valuable input for better managing economic globalization to come. On behalf of the Faculty of Economics, Thammasat University, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all the partners and staffs who make this important event happening. We really hope such inter-organization cooperation we have today is the beginning. We will have few more to come in the near future. Please stay safe and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jutathip Jongpich, for extending your support for organizing the international conference. We greatly appreciate your association with us, and we too are positive that this conference will help in highlighting some of the very constructive inputs. Moving ahead, let me introduce our keynote speaker of the day, Dr. Mia Miki, Advisor, ArtNet, Bangkok, Thailand. Dr. Mia is a trade economist with a keen interest in sustainable development and with an established track record and experience in academia and international civil service. She served as Director, Trade, Investment and Innovation Division in United Nations ISCAP. She is also a visiting fellow at the Institute of Euro-Asian Studies at the Faculty of Economics and Business, University of Zagreb. She is the author of many books, reports, and papers, and has edited or co-edited several volumes on international economics, regional integration, and development. Between 2009 and 2020, she oversaw preparation of Asia-Pacific Trade and Investment Report, a flagship publication in area of trade and investment. Her current research and advisory work focus on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on trade and global value chains, frontier technologies, and inclusive future of work, advocating for women as influencers in policy making, services trade, and promotion of evidence-based policy making. She is collaborating with several universities on modernizing trade curricula. She has earned her doctorate in economics from the University of Zagreb. We welcome you, Dr. Mia, and request you to share your rich and vast experience with all of us. Over to you, ma'am, for your valuable keynote address.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dutta. I hope I'm audible, and I see my slide is, my cover slide is up. So first of all, thank you very much for this kind introduction, and of course, for this kind invitation to join other scholars and distinguished persons in this session and otherwise supporting the conference. It's really my privilege to be with you. This is my first time. I hope not the last time. And I'm really happy and excited to actually share this session with you. As this is a relatively short talk and I tend to speak a lot, I have actually written down some notes that I will be reading here and there. And I will not have a full set of slides because that always takes me on a very long journey in terms of the delivery. So I'm just gonna show a few slides and mostly towards the end of my talk. But just as a summary to let you know what I will be talking about is really three main points. One, just very quickly to comment on the performance of global economy and regions under the influence of global pandemic and the associated crisis with this pandemic. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the understanding of the term recovery and what we really want to do with it. And as you saw from my title, I'm going to be choosing to really speak about resilient recovery rather than any generic recovery. And that sort of narrows it down in terms of what sort of instruments as drivers can be picked. And then since I am the trade economist.
Dr. Mia, just sorry to interrupt you for a second, please. Can you do one setting in your Zoom account for us?
Can I do what?
One change in your settings in the Zoom account.
Yes, I can.
Yes, Praveen sir, tell her. आप Zoom पे बोलो ना, मेरे phone पे.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, in the right hand side top corner is it's the option of more. Please click on it. More.
More, yes.
And here it's the option of disable annotation.
Disable. Yes.
Please click on it.
Yes, I did.
Done, ma'am. Done.
Is it okay now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So shall I continue? All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
good.
please.
I'm sorry, I didn't know what was clicked. All right. So my third point, and that's where I'm going to show some slides, is really related to how do we go about a recovery through international cooperation, and I'm really happy that Archana has already mentioned the importance and relevance of international cooperation, and I hope you will bear with me for spending most time on that, given that I am indeed the international trade economist, and that is my line of expertise. But let me go on very quickly with my first 2 points, then just to set the scene. So the first point really is about, and I apologize for reading some of this, but it will speed me up, so we will save some time for discussions. So my first point about the performance of global economy and the regions in the world economy is here because I want to really stress the point that the world, through looking at these data, is split into two very distinct categories. One group is the number of countries that are performing sort of okay in a sense that they haven't really collapsed fully. And then there are many countries that are performing poorly, and they're performing poorly in different categories or altogether. So when we look only at the regional or global average, we are actually obscuring all of these disparities that exist between national economies. And therefore, we are hiding enormity of challenges that are lying ahead of these other countries on their road to recovery. Now, obviously, it is not easy to do very good forecasts in normal times. And when you're operating under the under the influence of the triple crisis that we have had since last year, health crisis, supply crisis, demand crisis, and all of them now really getting together and creating something that I call development crisis, right? It is really challenging to come up with decent, solid, and stable forecasts. And so when you look at the data and the numbers that have been put up periodically by many of the very solid institutions that do that day in, day out, you will see that periodically through the year, the numbers were getting better. And I'm referring to the 2020, right? So as we were moving through 2020, the numbers on the conventional economic categories like GDP and the sort of fiscal elements and monetary elements of these were actually monitored, and they were coming up with ever so slightly upgraded forecasts, so that in the end of the year, we ended up with rather surprising good results. Good results with respect to what we started with in the first quarter of 2020. So when we declared that we contracted global output by 3.8%, everyone cheered, right? But it was -4%, which in normal circumstances we would really declare it as a deep crisis, and it was on paper. It was labeled as the mother of all crises, or the biggest crisis of the last 90 years, etc. And then when the WTO corrected their forecasts from original 32% drop in merchandise trade to only just below 6% drop in merchandise trade, everyone was again cheering, because this was so much less worse than what we expected. We really, even with the horrendous numbers, like saying 95 million people will be going back to be extreme poor, that is still also a lesser number than originally forecasted, and so even that is accepted as a positive result, which I think is not really something that we should be accepting as such. But anyway, when people try to explain why we have these discrepancies between the numbers, so they came up, with two buckets of reasons. One is that because people were really anxious about the type of the crisis, it was unknown precedent that we were facing at the beginning of 2020. Most of them actually reached for the the most pessimistic scenarios that they could build, because they were all afraid that they will be overestimating the performance, right? So it turned out that should not have been done. But then the other part of reasons that I'm more excited about is it seems that some of the policies that were put in place were actually working, and that they were actually helping economies to sort of chime through the recession, which it officially, many economies have been and are still in the recessions. Out of these measures, I think I would want to name 4 groups of measures just to keep them on our mind, because they belong to these conventional measures that we always need to use in the recovery. But what I will want to argue in the end is that they are not sufficient to deliver what we really want to deliver, which is inclusive and sustainable development. So these 4 sort of elements of these measures that were working were, of course, very accommodating monetary policy and very supportive fiscal measures to the tune of $16 trillion across the globe, that allowed the demand not to fall through the floor and to really still people generate some income and then generate some demand. So that was one set of policies. Another very important set of policies that I think will carry us on is that we have found the alternative ways of working, and not only working in terms of what we do, like academics and researchers, etc., but also many other professions, except those that really needed to be on a spot somewhere where we use social distancing and allowed them still to work. So basically, the generation of income in an unsurprising number of in surprising number of cases actually continued, and also allowed for the continuation of operation of the logistics of international trade, which was very important after the initial disruption that we suffered. I think we also were surprised by countries after first reaching for very discriminatory trade policies, correcting them or at least not going further down the road with them. So that helped a lot. And then, of course, some of the large economies like China and United States recovered much sooner than it was expected. And so since they create so much of the global output and global transactions, that steered the results in that way. But still, we should not associate these better than expected numbers as the global recovery. I hear, you open the newspaper and say, oh, we have actually recovered from the crisis. We haven't. We are still making up for the difference to what we had in 2019, right? And so we will still this year, whatever we grow, except for occasional countries, we will still be making the difference what we lost, right? So that hopefully in 2022, we will be starting making progress again. And so plus all of these numbers that I mentioned ignored horrific numbers that we do know exist, and they exist in the areas of traditional services industries where you have lost revenues of about 70% or 65-70% in tourism related activities, right? With thousands of hundreds of small and medium-sized enterprises that lost ability to operate, and then of course impacted vulnerable groups like women, young, unskilled, semi-skilled, and etc. We have lost, ILO has forecasted about 300 million regular paid work hours. And of course, millions of children and students have lost the opportunity to be educated, which will have long-term consequences on the formation of the human capital, ability to innovate, ability to be creative, and actually ability to face a new crisis down the road, right? So, and then of course, I'm not going to mention those that have died and that are struggling with long COVID that we know will impact their productive capacity and their ability to earn income down the road, right? So these positive results that we have found on average, etc., I wouldn't hail them as the recovery. And also, I'm really, I like to hear positive news about trade, but even the trade numbers that posit some of the positive growth for some of the countries in Asia, again, I wouldn't read much into it as of now, because we have a knee-jerk reaction in trade. So because we were depleted all inventories, etc. So this growth is now really just making up for the depleted stocks and possibly some of the relocation of the production, etc. All right, so that's about the data. I just wanted to lay the ground about what we are dealing with here in terms of the recovery. And I notice my time is running very fast, so I'm gonna have to skip some of these things. My second point was really to challenge the term recovery and to ask, what do we want to recover towards, right? And so because if you have read any of the literature that has been put out by UN and other organizations, we are talking about building back better or building forward better, which means that we want to actually to recover in a way that we strengthen the ability of the economy to face new crises down the road, right? So it is not recovery to where we were, but recovery to some other point. And so the question is, have we actually defined where we want to go with this recovery? Do we have a clarity on that? Right? And I think many countries actually have a generic term, you know, we all use inclusive, sustainable, etc. But I don't think that they have actually prescribed in their strategies, what does it mean? How it will change their, for example, social protection system. Are they ready for that? Right? There are many economies that still, you know, consider that having a social welfare categorizes them as a socialist economy. And so they will not go that way. But having actually social welfare is tantamount of having actually inclusive economy, right? So I think people need to actually look into that and see what they want to achieve with this recovery before they move on with this. I would, since the time is very short, I would just point you to the recently released ESCAP report called Asia Pacific Economic and Social Survey 2021 that deals with the issues of building resilient economies at length, and also puts together some packages of policies that may be handy for these countries that have no idea yet of how to actually build these resilient economies. And now, in terms of my third point, where I want to take international cooperation from the two perspectives. One is a very short-term vaccine issue perspective, and another one is more general, medium-term, longer-term trade issues. And I want to start with vaccines because it seems to, and I'm going to skip this slide because there's various quotations actually collected through various type of literatures testifying towards the lack of international cooperation, the weakness of multilateral institutions, and the deepening of distrust between the major stakeholders in international economy, which are, of course, the governments, right? So I'm gonna skip doing that, but I want to show you this particular slide, which I took from the very recent research from Chad Bown and Thomas Bolwicki, that they have put out several papers, and this is the last one. They explain, they escape the possibility of how do we escape from this vaccine nationalism that we have, and unfortunately entered into after all the euphoria that we had. A few weeks after that, you know, we had issues with European Union, we had issues with United Kingdom, we had issues with US, we had issues with India, all of them not directly banning export, but having arrangements that actually, you know, de facto make export everything but impossible. So the reason why we have this vaccine nationalism problem is that we have a lack of quantity of vaccine that is necessary to vaccinate whoever needs to be vaccinated. And we just heard in the introduction that unless we vaccinate sufficient majority of people around the globe, we will not deal with this crisis properly. So the problem with the production of vaccine is that it is based on a supply chain. And this supply chain is rather complex. It has 4 different parts. One is related to the discovery. We know who discovered what. There are some that are still doing that. And then you have actual production. Then you have the phase in which you have packaging and the pre-distribution phase, and then you have actual distribution, right? So now when you look at who is doing what, you will find that there are about 13 countries in the world that are engaged either in the production of about 200, give or take, different components that go in different vaccines, and the actual vaccine producers, right? And so they don't have capacity to produce billions and billions of doses that are needed, all right? Why they don't have capacity? Because of their business model. And I don't have time to go into that right now, but if we have time later on, I can explain that, right? And so then the solution to this is actually to see how we can work with the companies and with some of the governments to add to the capacity and to try to sort of do already transferring from those that have hoarding issues to the places where we need these vaccines. Just to add something about the waiver when you are operating at the full capacity and you don't have idle capacity, no waiver will help you to get actually additional vaccines to where they need to go, right? Waiver can help only once you build new capacity and then you associate it with having a license to produce, and then you can go on. Nobody can build this capacity very quickly, and at present we really don't have in the world no idle capacity to do anything like that. All right, so this is about vaccine. The problem with vaccine is as I said, business model of the industry, lack of cooperation between the governments, lack of actually preempting the problem with the governments through the public funding of these issues. And now currently, of course, the added to that is that we have entered into the new waves of infections, which nobody expected. And that creates additional problems, both in the production and in distribution. Now, when you look at the trade in general, trade in general also, as it went through different stages of global economy, unbundling, this and that, hyper globalization, and then global financial crisis, etc., etc. The same with globalization, global value chains changed as well, right? They are not static; they change, and so what we are now expecting, the next set of changes, sorry, I don't have time to go into the history, so I'm going to just go towards the future, given that I really have a very little, if I may get another 2 minutes, I would appreciate it. So the changes that we expect in global value chains are that we will have sorry, this is my phone is really bad. Okay, or this is your timer. I have no idea. Okay, sorry, this is really disturbing. Okay, sorry. So we will be shifting from manufacturing to services and to data. And that spells the problem for all the countries that haven't actually been able to still engage into the value chains through manufacturing, because they are not ready to do it through the services. I can explain more later on. That shift, of course, is done through the shift or conversion from analog technologies to digital technologies in terms of production processes, and also the ability to control some of the ecological processes, right? The biggest shock, I think, for the developing countries will be that the source of competitive advantage that used to be for the purposes of the value chains mostly in wage arbitration or the low wage and the location will now shift towards using really digital technology, automation, additive printing, etc., to cut the cost of production and distribution and trade. And so that will definitely have issues with the ability of these countries to recover, or to use trade for recovery and for the future growth, right? We will also have a change in the business model that will be more seriously looking at resilience rather than just pure sheer, micro 101 efficiency. And of course, we will have a much more of regional sort of linkages being built up, not only to pick up the things that need to relocate from the global value chains, given the still existent trade war, but because we will have new sources for new regional value chains based on RCEP and the other arrangements. So very quickly, the risks that we will be facing in that sort of advances with the globalization and the global value chains are enormous. And they come from the public opinion, from the geopolitical and geoeconomic sources. They come from, countries still being very sort of uncooperative and pick and choosing where they want to cooperate or not. We have huge economic uncertainty, and then we have also the baggage of the whole historical protectionism being actually fed into the new type of protectionism called precautionism. And to sum up, I will just say that as we are looking forward in terms of recovery and using trade in terms of the recovery, we have to understand that what trade used to be doing through globalization, which is providing bigger pie and bigger income to everyone, is not going to be able to deliver new social objective that we want to achieve, which is inclusive and sustainable development on its own. It will have to be paired by a mix of a coherent mix of policies, flanking policies, that will actually then allow this focus on people-centered, inclusive and sustainable development that will have all these sort of attributes that I have linked here through the bullet points, including zero emissions and gender sensitivity, as well as supply chain resilience, etc. So I'm very sorry that I had to rush through this. I thought I could speak faster, but I always overestimate my ability to speak very fast. I will be happy to answer any questions if there are any, and engage in further discussions. And so thank you very much for your attention. So I will stop sharing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mia. Thank you very much for such a detailed notes on the theme. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mia. It was a pleasure listening to you. The inputs related to picking drivers for a resilient economy has served as a valuable takeaway of your address. The input specifically performance of global and national economies during the pandemic, recovery and the need to rethink the concept, international cooperation focusing on vaccination, production and rollout, and trade policy are definitely worth deliberating upon. Let me introduce our chief guest of the day, Mr. Niluka Kaduru Gamawa, Deputy High Commissioner at High Commission of Sri Lanka, New Delhi. A career Foreign Service officer, Mr. Niluka joined the Sri Lankan Foreign Service in 2003 and served in Sri Lanka missions in Rome, Bangkok, and New York. He has held a number of positions in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Sri Lanka as well. Prior to being appointed the Deputy High Commissioner of Sri Lanka in New Delhi, he was the Acting Director General Public Diplomacy and the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He graduated with first-class honors from the University of Kelaniya in Sri Lanka and also holds a master's degree in linguistics from the University of Kelaniya and a master's degree in international relations from the University of Colombo. An accomplished polyglot and translator, Sir has translated several literary works from English to Sinhala. He won the State Literary Award for the best translation of a novel in 2018 and 2019. We welcome you, sir. and request you to address the gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Sumedha, for that generous introduction. Thank you. Presiding Chair, Dr. Nandkishore Garg, Founder and Chief Advisor of the Maharaja Agrasen Technical Education Society and Chancellor, Maharaja Agrasen University, Professor Dr. S.K. Garg, Director General, MAIMS, Keynote Speaker, Dr. Mia Mikik, Distinguished Fellow Speakers, Professor Dr. Ravi Kumar Gupta, Professor Dr. S.L. Gupta, Dr. Archanan, Dr. Sumedha Datta, and of course, Dr. Sanjay Kumar Mangla, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, I consider it a great honor and privilege to be able to attend online and make brief remarks at this inaugural session of the 6th International Conference on Drivers of Global Economic Recovery, organized by the Department of Economics of the MAIMS. I was looking forward to physically attending this conference and sharing my thoughts, but the prevailing conditions in the city have compelled us to meet online, adhering to the new normal. I thank MAIMS for inviting me to the conference as the chief guest. It is a great honor. Nevertheless, I have a confession to make. I am not an economist or a scholar on economics like most of you, the erudite speakers and scholars attending this conference today. Hence, I would try to make my remarks as a layman and share some information on as to how my country, Sri Lanka, is endeavoring to recover its economy in the onslaught of the global pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused major disruptions to the global economy. Economic activity has been hit by reduced personal interaction, and this unprecedented phenomenon has discouraged investment due to uncertainty about the post-pandemic policies, caused slowdown in human capital accumulation due to disruptions to education, raised concerns about the viability of the global value chain, and also the pandemic has impacted on the international trade and tourism. With these, the pandemic is expected to leave long-lasting adverse effects on global economic activities and per capita incomes. Hence, countries will need to tailor their policy responses corresponding to the stage of the pandemic, the strength of the recovery, and the structural characteristics of the economy. After an estimated contraction of minus 3.3% in 2020, the global economy is projected to grow at 6% in 2021, moderating to 4.4% in 2022. Output losses have been particularly large for countries that rely on tourism and commodity exports, and for those with limited policy space to respond. Sri Lanka, an island at the edge of the Indian subcontinent, with a total population of 22 million, is a country that is naturally blessed with a favorable climate and natural resources. To highlight, Sri Lanka is situated strategically at the crossroads of major shipping routes to South Asia, the Far East, and the continents of Europe and America, making the country a convenient port of call for shipping lines and air freight services. Further, Sri Lanka's proximity to the Indian subcontinent positions the country as a gateway to a market of 1.3 billion people. These factors have combined to generate keen interest in the country's logistics sector, including from the manufacturers looking for the Asian region. Sri Lanka is well known for its tea, spices, gemstones, and as a tourist destination. Our main exports are textiles and apparel, tea and spices, electronics, IT services, rubber manufacturers, fishery products, precious stones, porcelain, and coconut-based products. Till recent years, tourism industry has emerged as the second highest foreign exchange earner in Sri Lanka. In the past decade, the country's GDP growth rate was around 5%. As per the GDP estimates published by our Department of Census and Statistics, the Sri Lankan economy, which contracted by 1.7% and 16.3% in the first and second quarters of 2020, respectively, rebounded in the third quarter of 2020 and recorded a growth of 1.5%. However, the onset of the second wave of COVID-19 is expected to have dampened the momentum in the fourth quarter of 2020. Accordingly, the economy is expected to have contracted by around 3.9% in 2020. However, With the prevailing political stability that encourages more foreign investments and job creation, economic growth is expected to rebound in 2021 and maintain the upward curve. Under the post-pandemic economic revival program, the government focuses on economic and strategic engagements to uplift the domestic industries through joint venture collaboration and to increase foreign direct investment flow to Sri Lanka. Further, positive sentiments fueled by the COVID-19 vaccination drive in the country and the impact of growth promoting policies are expected to support the economic revival over the short to medium term. Despite pandemic threat, Sri Lanka's total export earnings in the year 2020 recorded at US dollars 9.9 billion, while total imports to Sri Lanka registered at US dollars 15.6 billion. In November 2020, the government presented its budget for the year 2021, which focused on strengthening the 2021 to 2023 medium-term program of poverty alleviation and economic revival, as envisaged in the government policy framework. Among the budget proposals, a consistent tax policy is envisaged for the next 5 years to revive the economy and support several businesses. Tax concessions are to be granted for strategic investments. According to the macroeconomic program of the government policy framework, the target of the Sri Lanka government is to maintain an inclusive growth rate of 6% or higher over the medium term, with the per capita income exceeding US dollars 6,500 and maintaining the rate of unemployment at less than 4%. We envisage to maintain the rate of annual inflation under 5% and the budget deficit at less than 4% of GDP, a single-digit rate of interest, and also to maintain the exchange value of the rupee at a stable level. To achieve these targets, a plethora of initiatives is lined up involving the sectors such as manufacturing, construction, tourism, development of agro through advanced technology, fisheries, dairy sector, information technology, infrastructure, development of highways, ports and airports, among others. In the context of foreign direct investment, the government is committed in facilitating, projecting and promoting the liberal investment climate in Sri Lanka by continuing to realign the systems and procedures to suit the modern business needs. And the prospective investors from India and from the region are encouraged to take advantage of these untapped investment opportunities in the island. With this in view, government is in the process of introducing new laws to protect investments and also enhancing the ease of doing business in Sri Lanka. Our annual FDI target within the next 3 years will be US dollars 5 billion. The sectors that encourage foreign investment from the region are manufacturing, food processing, textiles, pharmaceuticals, information technology, renewable energy, infrastructure, hospitality industry, electrical and electronics, and auto components. Close proximity, regular connectivity, the existing bilateral and regional trading agreements where Sri Lanka is a member will facilitate further enhancing trade and investment ties with the countries in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, as I have mentioned in the beginning, the impact of the global pandemic has made inroads into many sectors in every country in the world, making adverse effects on their economies. In that sense, it is a global problem, and solutions for that problem should be sought through cooperation among nations. The contribution made by the academia in finding solutions to global issues has been of great importance, and the ideas generated through conferences such as this would provide deep insights for policy formulation for global economic recovery. I'm certain that the 6th International Conference on Drivers of Global Economic Recovery would make an important and useful contribution in that regard. Therefore, I thank the organizers for convening this timely conference and for the invitation for me to attend. I wish very fruitful deliberation at the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for highlighting the set of control strategies adopted by the government of Sri Lanka to bring the coronavirus pandemic under control. It was encouraging to note the positive economic growth made by Sri Lankan economy in spite of all the challenges that are being faced at present due to COVID pandemic. We have amongst us Dr. Nand Kishore Garg, Founder, Chairman and Chief Advisor, Maharaja Agrasen Technical Education Society and Chancellor, Maharaja Agrasen University. Sir's inspiration and guidance has taken MAIMS to newer heights. Dr. Garg, a well-known reader and an orator, earned his degrees in chemistry and law from University of Delhi. He was awarded honorary D.Litt by Gurukul Vishwavidyalaya. He has a long association in politics, wherein he was elected as a member of Legislative Assembly and represented Delhi Vidhan Sabha for 3 times. He was given Best Parliamentarian Award also by the Delhi government. He has several awards to his credit, such as Sarv Shresth Sahakari Karyakarta Saman, Chaudhary Brahm Prakash Smriti Saman, Delhi government, Agra Ratna, Vaish Ratna, Samaj Ratna, Haryana Ratna, to name a few. Dr. Garg has strong interest in various social and religious associations with the prime motive to serve the society. He is presently pioneering the field of technical and professional education for the last 21 years. Sir, we request you to share your words of wisdom with us.
हेलो हेलो
यस मंगला सर.
हाँ सर ने ज्वाइन किया है, जस्ट एक बार मैं कंफर्म कर रहा हूँ. सर बाबूजी, हेलो हेलो. हाँ 1 मिनट. हाँ प्रवीण सर. प्रवीण सर.
जी सर.
एक ये विनायक गर्ग के नाम से हैं, इनको प्लीज आप पोस्ट बना दो जल्दी से. विनायक गर्ग.
ठीक है सर. ओके.
अनम्यूट कर दो उनको. विनायक गर्ग को
यस यस यस.
जी
सर. नमस्कार सर.
नमस्ते.
नमस्ते सर. नमस्ते सर.
नमस्कार जी.
इस इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस के लिए इस आज कोरोना के इस भीषण प्रकोप के अंदर भी आप लोग अपना कार्यक्रम कर रहे हैं, बहुत बहुत बधाई. डॉक्टर रवि कुमार गुप्ता जी, संजय जी, एस.के. गर्ग जी, रजनीश जी, सुमेधा जी, और जो मुझे नजर नहीं आए जो पार्टिसिपेंट हैं उन सबको मेरा नमस्कार. अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर पिछले 1-1.25 साल से सभी लोग परेशान हैं और सभी फील्ड में हैं, तो आर्थिक स्थिति भी उससे बहुत प्रभावित है. 15-20 दिन पहले तक हमको लगता था कि शायद भगवान की दृष्टि अब ठीक हो गई है और हम सही रास्ते पर चलकर अपनी इकोनॉमी को भी रिवाइव कर पाएंगे और लोगों का स्वास्थ्य की भी रक्षा कर पाएंगे. परंतु अचानक ही फर्स्ट वीक ऑफ अप्रैल से आज तक इस देश के अंदर जो स्थिति बनी है वो बहुत भयानक है, जिससे भी बात करने में भी डर लगता है. फोन आए तो डर लगता है कि कोई न कोई बुरी समाचार ना मिले. परंतु उसके बावजूद हम सब ने धैर्य रखना है और धैर्य रखते हुए अपने शरीर की रक्षा पहले करेंगे. शरीर की रक्षा के बाद ही सब कुछ हो सकता है कि शरीर माध्यम धर्म खलु साधना. शरीर ठीक नहीं होगा तो सारी एक्टिविटी अपने आप ही छिन्न भिन्न हो जाती है और गड़बड़ा जाती है. इसलिए आप लोग इस कार्यक्रम में लगे हुए हैं और मैं भी इनॉग्रल इस सेशन में आपके साथ सम्मिलित हूँ. आपको शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ और आशा करता हूँ कि भगवान हम सबके ऊपर अपनी कृपा दृष्टि बनाए रखे, ताकि विश्व के अंदर जो एक ये आतंक है इस पर हम काबू पा सके. और कोरोना नाम की बीमारी जो चीन ने भेजी थी पूरे विश्व में भेजकर अपने आर्थिक तंत्र को तो उसने मजबूत कर लिया, बाकी देशों के लिए खासतौर पर जो छोटे देश हैं, कमजोर देश हैं, उनके ऊपर बहुत ही इसका बड़ा प्रकोप है. हमारे देश के 130 करोड़ लोगों ने मिलजुल कर काबू पा लिया था और फिर काबू पाएंगे. एक इस समय बहुत ही हमारे परीक्षा का समय है. ये सब परीक्षाएं स्थगित हैं, परंतु व्यक्ति के धैर्य की परीक्षा भी हो रही है. जितना ज्यादा हम इसके अंदर धैर्य रखेंगे उतनी ही जल्दी से इसके ऊपर काबू पा सकेंगे। मैं अपनी ओर से मेट्स परिवार के सभी सदस्यों को जिन्होंने अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर इस वेबिनार का आयोजन किया है उनको बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं और आशा करता हूं कि एक दूसरों के विचारों से हम लोग लाभान्वित होंगे और अपने अंदर उसमें क्या क्या और इम्प्रूवमेंट हम कर सकते हैं अपने व्यक्तित्व में, अपने समाज में, अपने देश में, और सब मिलजुल कर पूरे विश्व में फिर से अच्छे वातावरण बने। अच्छे वातावरण बनाने के लिए हम सब लोग पॉजिटिव सोच के बने और पॉजिटिव सोच से ही चीजें पॉजिटिव होंगी, ऐसा मेरा पूरा विश्वास है। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। जय हिंद। ठीक है मंगला जी।
जी सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच सर।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring words. Sir has rightly stated that patience and focus on health are the two important keys to sail through these testing times. And staying positive together, we can definitely beat all the upheavals. Thank you once again, sir. We request Dr. Nandkishore Garg to virtually release our international conference compendium. Praveen sir, could we have our conference compendium? I request the technical team to please show the cover page of our international conference compendium, please.
प्रवीण सर
जी, अनिल आए नहीं है। अनिल जी नहीं आए हैं।
प्रवीण जी को बोल रहा हूँ सर। नहीं जी।
The conference compendium is a result of the painstaking efforts made by the team under the unwavering encouragement of our founder chairman, Dr. Nandkishore Garg, Professor S.K. Garg, Director General MAIMS, and Professor Ravi Kumar Gupta, Director MAIMS. We also have the release of the special issue of MAIMS Journal of Management, consisting of some of the thought-provoking papers that were forwarded by the scholars in the present conference. We have another release of the quarterly newsletter Arth Niti of our Department of Economics. The newsletter Arth Niti will encourage students to cultivate their interest in economics and related themes. Additionally, it will also reinforce the relevance of economics as a discipline to students' everyday lives. Thank you. We have some of the faculty achievements with us. Praveen sir, could we have that slide? On account of the pandemic, we could not acknowledge the achievements of the faculty of MAIMS on Teachers' Day 2020. However, as we say, better late than never, we would like to appreciate the faculty who have tirelessly worked for 15 years in MAIMS. Next slide, Mr. Yes. The faculty who completed 15 years of service in MAIMS in the year 2020 were Dr. Bharti Chaudhary, Associate Professor, Department of Business Administration, and Dr. Gitanjali Gupta, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce. We would also like to celebrate the success of 4 of our faculty members who were awarded their doctoral degree in the year 2020. We have Dr. V.K. Bhatnagar, who won his DLit degree from Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Agra, UP. Dr. Varuna Kharbanda, she received her PhD degree from Delhi Technological University in the area of finance. Dr. Nidhi Chaudhary received her PhD degree from Guru Jamshedpur University of Science and Technology, Hisar, in the area of journalism and mass communication. Dr. Nisha Dhanraj earned her PhD from Jamia Millia Islamia University, Delhi, in the area of law. Next slide. The upheavals caused by the pandemic in 2020 could not dampen the spirit of MAIMS faculty who put in their best efforts to author a book. We have Dr. Charu Mohalla, who authored a book titled Industrial Management. Dr. Anuradha A. Singh, the title of her book was Role of Awadh Talukar. Dr. Nisha Dhanraj Divani edited a book on intellectual property rights and protection of traditional knowledge. Ms. Taranpreet Kaur authored a book on the title Sales and Distribution Management. Next slide, please. We also have Dr. Sanjay Kumar Mangla, who authored a book on global economic order in the post-COVID-19 era, challenges, opportunities, and strategies. And Dr. Nisha Jindal also authored a book titled Global Economic Order in the Post-COVID-19 Era, Challenges, Opportunities, and Strategies. Next slide, Mr. Praveen Kumar. We also have Dr. Sanjay Kumar Mangla, who was associated as a research consultant in an international project funded by Economic Research Institute for Asian and East Asia, Jakarta, Indonesia. Sir served as a research consultant from the period March 2019 to March 2020. Thank you, sir. Many, many congratulations to all the faculty members for their sincere efforts. Let me introduce our convener of the international conference, Dr. Sanjay Kumar Mangla. Dr. Mangla is an associate professor and head department of economics at MAIMS. He has to his credit 14 research papers in journals of repute, 3 book chapters, 11 papers in conferences, 9 knowledge and discussion papers, and 5 opinion articles. He has also conducted several conferences and FDPs. He has also conducted several funded projects on various facets of public policy and digital economy. His areas of interest are regional inequalities, industrial productivity, trade and investment, and e-commerce. I request Dr. Sanjay Kumar Mangla to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Sumedha. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Dr. Sumedha, I'm audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good. Very, very good morning to all the guests in India, Thailand, Oman, Australia, Sri Lanka. It's really pleasure to listen to all of you in this wonderful evening, a wonderful morning. Though we all are facing a hard time, but I think the hard time could not stop us to interact with each other and learning from each other. I think that is the most important one. I just want, before I propose my formal vote of thanks, it's my humble duty. I just want to say only one sentence to our founder chair, Dr. Nand Kishorji Garg, who are actually a torchbearer for us. He has supported all of us in all the way. Sir, just about 40 days back when we had our freshers party in the institute, you said one sentence that now you want to see the MAIMS name at international level. So under the dynamic leadership of our Director General and Director Professor Ravi Kumar Gupta, we have worked in that manner, and even in a less than of 2 months, I'm very happy to share this, that now the name of our institute is flagging here and there on various platforms in the international arena, and we are so blessed to have so many of international guests at this event today. Thank you very much, sir, for your all the blessings and support always. And it's been really wonderful to listen to you, all of you. My first thank to that Almighty God who is keeping us healthy and safe even in this tough time, and encouraging us to work more and more to solve all kinds of social and various other problems. I really pay my sincere gratitude and thank to our chief guest, Mr. Niluka, who is now actually a friend of mine, though he is a Deputy High Commissioner at Sri Lanka High Commission, but he is also a friend of mine now. That merely on a very simple request of mine, he agreed to be the chief guest in the event and share his valuable thoughts. Really, thank you very much, sir, from my heart. I really thank you, Dr. Mia Miki. Dr. Mia, we in a couple of days on various emails and LinkedIn messages, but I tell you that I came to know about you when I worked with CUTS International as a fellow. And in 2017, UN Escape and Asian Development Bank organized the Trade Facilitation Forum in Yogyakarta, Indonesia, where I was given the best case study award globally. And it has your signature. I have that certificate with me. So I came to know about you from there. And I thought that I will definitely have an opportunity to have you as a speaker and a guest in at least one of my events. And now I'm sure that this association will go long. Thank you so much for accepting my request. No I pay my sincere thanks to both our international academic partners, Economics, University of Thailand, Professor Supachai, Dean, who, because of other meetings, could not join us. Dr. Archanan, my very good friend who initiated all this collaboration. Dr. Archanan, really thank you very much from my bottom of my heart. And Dr. Jutatip, who is also a faculty at the Faculty of Economics, Thammasat University, and editor-in-chief in the Thailand and the World Economy. And now, as we discussed that hopefully after this conference, we will have a long-term foreign collaboration between the two organizations to go a long way, to do wonders for the society. I also pay my sincere thanks to Professor Dr. S.L. Gupta, who is not with us right now because of some medical emergency, but being even on a single phone call, he accepted my request to sponsor this conference and be international academic partner with us, sponsoring papers, arranging international guests in every manner. And along with him, Dr. Neeraj Mishra, who actually helped a lot in formulating these collaborations. Really, thank you very much. And now my sincere gratitude and thanks to the managing committee of our society, Maharaja Agar Singh Technical Education Society, Dr. Nand Kishore Garg. I have actually no words to say for him. Just a thanks with folded hands. Sir, always thank you for your blessings and supports. In whatever we do, you always promote us. You always encourage us to all the things even we which could not think of. I pay my sincere thanks to Shri H.P. Agarwal ji, who is Executive Chairman, Maharaja Agar Singh Technical Education Society, Shri Vineet Kumar Gupta ji, who is joining us since the very beginning of this inaugural session. Thank you very much, sir, Chairman, Maharaja Agar Singh Technical Education Society, Shri T.R. Garg ji, who is General Secretary, MAIMS, Shri Rajneesh Gupta ji, sir, I'm very happy to see you on the live on this screen since morning. And really, thank you very much for all your support. You told me one day that if you have any issue, you have any suggestion, come to me directly. So thank you for all that support. Our dynamic Director General, Professor S.K. Garg, with his rich experience of over 4 decades, show light to us to go a long way in all the directions to make this institute a globally renowned one to study various fields of study in Delhi. Then definitely Professor G.P. Govil, who is advisor mates and always with us in all the manners, support, facilitate everything. We approach him anytime if we have any issues. And we have Professor Neelam Sharma, director of our sister institution, Maharaja Agar Singh Institute of Technology. Thank you very much, ma'am, for gracing the occasion and supporting your younger sister institution in all the manners. Professor S.S. Deswal, Dean Academics of MATE, Maharaja Agar Singh Institute of Technology, to provide all kinds of support in all the manners. Before I move to thank all my team members, it's very important to thank my own director, Professor Dr. Ravi Kumar Gupta, who we took not even a boss, but just like if we have any kind of issue, we disturb him at any time and he always solves our problem. He just told me that, Sanjay, let's do a conference. So I told him that, sir, okay, let's do it in a 6 months. No, do it in the month of April. Okay, sir, it will be done with before April ends. So thank you very much, sir, for all, not only to me, but all of us, of our faculty members, as well as staff. I pay my sincere thanks to all my fellow heads of department, Professor V.K. Khurana, Head Department of Business Administration and also Coordinator of IQAC, Professor Dr. Vinita Gupta, Head Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Professor Manju Gupta, Head Department of Commerce, Professor Praveen Kumar Gupta, Head Department of Law, always standing with me in doing all these things. And a special thanks to Professor Dr. Rajni Malhotra, who is Principal Department of Law with us and supporting us in all the manners. Our senior faculty members, Dr. Umesh Chatterjee, Dr. Manoj Sharma, and Ms. Sarita Garg. One thing that sir had said at the beginning, that we had all the 15 parallel sessions in the morning. So it's my humble duty to thank all of them, all the co-chairs and session chairs, co-chairs, Dr. Sanjay Lenka, Dr. Javeria Hajrana, Dr. Rituparna Das, Dr. Jagat Jyoti Barua, Professor Khurana, Dr. Manoj Verma, Dr. Vandana Sehgal, Dr. Parul Kumar, Dr. Monica Sharma, Dr. Shilpi Agrawal, Ms. Nisha Singh, Dr. Praveen Gupta, Ms. Sarita Garg, Dr. Deepak Dagar, and Dr. Saurabh Kumar, and also the session chairs, Professor Archanan, Dr. Noon, Dr. Rajneesh Clare, Dr. Anita Gupta, Dr. Nitin Gupta, Dr. Neeraj Mishra, Dr. Silpa Sindhu, Dr. Satyendra Pratap Singh, Dr. Ishwar Mittal, Dr. Rashri, Dr. Khan, Dr. Tariq, Professor Tapan Kumar Nayak, and Dr. Raj Yadav. It's my pleasure to inform you that all these 30 session chairs belong to more than 20 institutions in various capacities. I also thank all my fellow faculty coordinators who organized these 15 technical sessions, Ms. Arushi Agrawal, Dr. Ekta Dargad, Ms. Diksha Goyal, Dr. Charu Mola, Ms. Sakshi Goyal, Dr. Gitanjali Gupta, Dr. Taranpreet Kaur, Dr. Nirdosh Kumar, Dr. Usha Nayar, Dr. Shefali Ahuja, Dr. Nisha Dhanraj, Dr. Purnima Gupta, Ms. Kamna Ved, Dr. Shruti Sharma, and Ms. Neelam Nanda. They all did really well in organizing all the 15 sessions all together. And my special thanks to Mr. J.R. Tripathi ji, who is our chief accountant in facilitating in all kinds of accounting activities. And the last, but not the least, my whole team who have really worked, day and night, even in this tough situation. And I'm one side, I'm very pained, but on the other side, I'm very happy to inform that some or the other member of their family are affected from several type of medical emergency at their home. But still in that tough time, they found a time to work for this conference and event so that we can learn from each other. Dr. Sumedha Datta, who is co-convener also of this conference, Dr. Nisha Jindal, and Ms. Nikita Jain, who are the co-convener of this conference, Dr. Shweta Gagneja, Dr. Gaurav Agarwal, Ms. Riya Sharma, Dr. Nisha Singh, and Mr. Praveen Kumar Singh, who is been handling all the technical part since morning. They all are the secretaries of this conference and the organizing committee members, Mr. Rashi Agarwal, who took care of all the data work related to papers, authors, etc. Ms. Diksha Goyal, Ms. Sumati Kohli, Ms. Kajal Mittal, Ms. Rachita Agarwal. They have really done well. And our admin support staff, including Mr. Umesh Singh, Mr. Anuj Kumar, and Mr. Surinder Garg, who have supported us in all the way. And one more name, Dr. Amit Kumar, who has just joined us in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication and taking care of all our social media handlings and press and publications. So if I forget any name, just please forgive me. But I sincerely, I heartfelt thank each and every one of you for such a wonderful learning session. And I promise you that the output that is being generated from this conference will be disseminated widely in various forms of publications. One journal special issue we have launched in the morning, and 2 special issues of the Thailand and the world economy will be coming very soon. And we will be writing so many opinion articles and policy briefs, which will be helping different governments and other stakeholders to at least make a significant contribution in solving the problem of global recovery. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Mangla. And yes, this journey of learning will never cease, no matter what the situation might be. The conference, comprising of 15 technical sessions, have been highly productive. We are looking forward to the panel discussion wherein our esteemed think tankers will spark a knowledgeable conversation so that the audience can learn from their discourse and interaction. We are sure that the conference will succeed in bringing together experts in the field of varied subjects so that we can realize together its potential. We once again express our gratitude towards our esteemed dignitaries and participants. And now, after a short break, we would be starting with the panel discussion. Thank you, one and all. Thank you for your cooperation and sharing your valuable time with us today.
Thank you.
We will be starting panel discussion at 12:45. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks to all.